Sony shows off their vision of the future. Gameplay leaks for Valve's next game, and somehow someone beats Super Mario 64 without ever pressing A. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is Jinx News. In a new conceptualization that looks like it's come straight out of Minority Report, Ready Player One, or Cyberpunk, but maybe a little less dystopian, Sony have shared what they believe our future is going to look like. With the PS5 Pro rumored to be imminent, we're waiting to see if the DualSense controller will also be getting an upgrade. And thanks to Sony's latest video, which they've called their creative entertainment vision, we could be getting a glimpse into the future. It starts off simple enough, as this actor uses good old-fashioned pencil and paper to draw a character. But soon enough, she's making a fully rendered model with a click of an inkless fountain pen, and after she and her mates play what looks like futuristic solitaire, we see some advanced tech, including what I think is a tablet, this phone thingy, and finally, this controller. It does look pretty comfy and ergonomic, but it also does kind of look like a ring light with joysticks and is kind of reminiscent of the PS3 Boomerang. According to Sony, 10 years from now we will be living in a more multi-layered world where physical and virtual realities overlap without boundaries. If Sony, as a creative entertainment company, would be filling the world with new kando, which means emotion in Japanese, in that future, what kind of experimental value would we be offering to make that happen? Now, all of this sounds good, and who doesn't want to see Horizon on a big old space pod? But this is the same company that can't seem to support Media Molecule, who made Dreams, which is exactly the kind of easy-to-use tool that allowed people to create their visions. And importantly, this is all conceptual stuff. It wasn't long ago that Nintendo thought we'd all be swinging our arms about, or with Microsoft, our entire freaking bodies. And it's always easier to say groundbreaking tech will be with us in the next few years, say like, for example, fully autonomous cars, but actually delivering on those promises is something different entirely. Overall, with VR failing to really find a foothold and audiences gravitating away from big AAA games this year, I think the appetite for groundbreaking tech has simmered down a lot in recent years, because we crave what we feel like we've lost: fantastic gameplay and consistency. But hey, we live in a world of opinions. I might be wrong, you tell me. If you liked what you saw in Sony's vision, let us know. Getting a new game from Valve has become a bit of a rarity, even more so when it's a goddamn new IP. And when their latest game, Deadlock, leaked last week, there was still an unbelievable amount of excitement despite it looking like yet another hero shooter. But now we've got some gameplay leaks to accompany the screenshots, and you know what? I can definitely see what they're doing. One well-informed Valve enthusiast, Tyler McVicker, said this is meant to be Valve's next major competitive game, the next Counter-Strike, the next Dota. And then you see the gameplay, and it's immediately clear that this is a spiritual successor to Team Fortress 2 as well, and you kind of realize that Valve has basically tried to take all of their competitive games and mush them into one. Right now, it's being claimed that the game is being play-tested by hundreds of people in closed alpha, and it is one of those people that will be getting a very angry visit from Valve's legal team, because where else would these videos have come from? Right now, it looks like there's a roster of 19 characters, and I'd say the steampunk aesthetic is very much giving BioShock Infinite vibes, which is no bad thing. Overall, Valve clearly has big ambitions for Deadlock. Now you've seen it firsthand, so do you think it has legs? Let us know down in the comments. While Valve's next shooter is still some time away, fret not, because Ubisoft's free competitive shooter XDefiant dropped this week, and despite some initial server issues, it seems to be picking up some steam. In fact, according to Insider Gaming, around 1 million unique players played it within the first 2.5 hours of launch. I was one of them, and that kind of explains why the servers imploded. Since then, the number of unique players has grown past 3 million, and it seems to be hovering around 300,000 concurrent. And you only have to read the top comment on r/games right now to see why. Discretion Fist said, "As a FPS maniac, this game is free and 30 gigs of fast-paced COD-like gameplay. It scratches that itch without supporting 300GB download practices, and that's honestly a huge win in my book. Oh, and it actually has good performance." Now, of course, it's not all roses. Some have complained that the hit detection is a little bit off. Maybe they'll fix that, maybe not. But in general, it's a quick, fun arcade shooter that does what it says on the tin. Whether that's enough to sustain the audience, well, I guess time will tell, especially with Call of Duty looking to be included on Game Pass this year. And speaking of which, we officially now know that it will be called Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We always kind of knew that, especially with it being from Treyarch. Regardless, I can't quite comprehend that we're on the 6th Black Ops, or the fact that we've now had over 20 Call of Duty games. God, time is cruel. But big up their marketing team for dropping the news just as X-Defiant gets its moment in the spotlight. I see what you're doing there. Very clever, very sneaky. Speaking of sneaky, Ash behind me would like to mention something very quick.
Check out our Patreon, Jinx Plus. You get access to loads of content and you get to support the channel.
God knows what he does behind that desk. Very quickly, I'd just like to talk about some insane Mario news. A Twitch streamer called Marbler has beaten Super Mario 64 without ever pressing the A button. It's a record 28 years in the making, and the entire run took 86 hours to complete. You might be thinking, but Ash, the A button is jump. How the hell is that possible? To which point, I wish I had the time to really dive into the insane intricacies that makes this possible. Like, it is genuinely incredible how much research, insight, and precision it takes to do this. What I can say though is that this is only possible on the Wii Virtual Console version of the game, as it calculates some of the maths a bit differently, allowing weird things like this to happen. Overall, Marble has achieved something that many thought was impossible, and isn't that a mantra to remember going into the weekend? Don't let your dreams be dreams, kids. Like, subscribe, have a sick weekend, goodbye.